Condos, are they for you? Let's talk about it. This is Aaron Chadbourne at Dimitri's team, the Real Estate Group, and our team has the experience to help you with your buying and selling needs in the real estate market. With housing prices being so high, an attractive option for many people is looking at condos. Another reason people tend to look at condominiums is because they're looking to take on less maintenance themselves and have the association take on more. Is that a good idea? Well, the first thing we should look at is condo fees. How much is it? If you're financing, you've probably been looking at what your monthly cost is going to be for your loan payment. And now we're going to add your condo fees on top of that. How's that going to affect your budget? If the condo fees are $250, $300 a year, maybe that's reasonable. If the condo fees are $400, $500, $600 a month, that starts getting overwhelming. So we're going to want to know, what are the fees? But equally as important is, what do those fees cover? If the fees include things like heat or water and sewer, maybe that starts to make a little bit more financial sense. Oftentimes, what condo fees will cover is maintenance of any common elements. If it's a private road that's owned by the association, usually plowing of that road, plowing of some driveways, that's usually included in the cost. Mowing of the lawns, upkeep of the landscaping. Those are usually contracts that the association will have and they'll take care of, because in a condo, you really own from the outside in. Usually your ownership starts at the studs in the exterior wall and is everything inside. That's what you have financial responsibility for. The association has financial responsibility for everything from the studs out. Now, I want to be careful about that, because sometimes people think, oh, if there's any problem with my roof or my door or my deck, then that means that's an association problem. Sometimes, but you've got to read the association documents. In many associations, what happens is, if a repair only affects one unit or a change only affects one unit, sometimes that means that unit is fully responsible for the cost of it. Or imagine you're in a building of two condos put together and it's just the two of you, and some repair or change is only going to affect the two of you. The cost might be spread over just those two units, even if you're in a much larger association. So make sure you know, what do your condo fees cover and what are the rules for common elements. You're also going to want to know what your rights are in terms of usage of any common elements. That's things like guest parking, or if there are amenities like a pool or a gym. You want to make sure you know what your rights and your access are. Another big question is, how many units are in the condominium? This is important for a few reasons. But basically, when you buy into a condominium association, you're in a homeowner association. You're basically marrying your neighbors. I know that sounds weird, it's kind of a funny expression, but you're gonna have to get agreement from these other owners, these property owners, because you are co-owners of some common elements and some common stuff. So they're gonna have some control over things that happen for your building. If it's a large association, there's usually a property management company involved, and that's usually helpful. Now, not all property management companies are created equally. Some are better than others, and to be honest, all have their moments. But it's helpful to have professionals involved, because they're managing the upkeep of a lot of the normal operations that you're going to be caring about. And they're probably managing the contracts for things like snow removal and landscaping and lawn care. They're also probably in charge of coordinating repairs or things of that nature, and collecting dues and managing the financials. So it's good to have a professional involved. If it's a small association, that means that the work of the association, managing the common elements, are falling to a few number of people. What does that mean? Well, it means if you're getting into a condo because you don't want to have to think about maintenance, you don't want to have to think about arranging for the care of the things that you're concerned about, a small association might not be for you, because more likely than not, you're going to be one of the people asked to serve on the board, and you might have to help make those decisions and manage those responsibilities for everybody. Also, it's much more likely in a small association that if you have a disagreement with only one other property owner in the association, that's going to have a much bigger impact because that one person's vote is going to count a lot more and they're going to carry more influence to those decisions. Maybe you want to be in a small association, and that's good for you to figure out. I personally like something in the middle. I like control, right? So associations are hard. I don't like being given rules and told what to do. But if I'm going to be in a condo association or association like that, I think there's safety in numbers. Some people don't like getting lost in it. They like to be able to have more control. And so it really is about a matter of preference for what works for you. Very important thing to look at are the financials of the association. When we go under contract and we're purchasing a condo association, if we've not already been provided with the financials for the association, the State of Maine Condominium Act requires that the seller provide those financials to you. And usually that's, you need to get minutes for a certain number of meetings so you can read up and know what are the things that are going on in the association. Are they talking about any major repairs that need to be made? Are they talking about changing any of the rules? What are the things that are being discussed at the meetings? But also, what is their balance sheet? What's their annual budget? What do they have for reserves? This part about reserves is very, very, very important because in any condo association, you need to be saving up for the big ticket items coming down the track. So if you were going to be looking at a condo with me, we'd look at how old is the roof, how recently was it replaced, and is there any damage that we think is going to need there. Roofs are expensive. If the condo association is responsible for common heating for the entire building, we're going to look at the age and the condition of the heating elements. Oftentimes we're going to look at siding. When was the last time the siding was done? What condition is it in? If there's a parking lot, we're going to be checking out the condition of the parking lot and looking for the last time that it was resurfaced. These are big ticket items that come up. If it's an older building, we're going to be looking again at, have they dealt with old issues like electrical, asbestos, structural issues? What condition is this building in? Because if we know that there's a high likelihood that there's going to have to be an outlay of funds from the condo association in the near-term future, we better be sure that there are funds in reserves to cover them. Otherwise, you're going to be paying for it as the new owner. And if that's something that you're not comfortable with or aren't going to be able to afford, maybe that's not the right condo for you. We need to make sure we know what condition that's in. That also could be something that influences whether or not you want to be in a newer condo or an older condo, or one with very few people and one with a lot of people. If there's a roof, for instance, spreading the cost of a roof repair over a large number of people is going to be cheaper than if you only have a few people in the association. Next, let's talk about restrictions. Condos have a few different types of restrictions, but the one that we're really going to focus on are the rules. The rules are governed by the association itself. There are a bunch that are normal, but you're going to want to check on things like, do they allow pets? That's important if you want to have a dog. If you have a dog, dogs are the thing that cause so much discussion in almost every condo association, whether or not you allow them. If you allow them, is there a size limitation? Is there a noise limitation? Do they have to be on a leash when they're outside? In general, this is an issue that's going to come up time and time again. There are some associations that are known for being pet friendly. There are some that are known for having no pets whatsoever. That's one you're going to want to check on. Parking. If there's common parking, or even if you have deeded parking spots, sometimes there is restriction on what you can and can't park there because people are concerned about what it's going to look like. If you have a boat, if you have a recreational vehicle, what are the ways? This is the thing about homeowners associations, right? They put restrictions on what you can do. They might also put restrictions on things like how many of the units in the association can be rented at one time. The general reason why they do that, there are two reasons, but one big one is for financing purposes. There are some lending programs that won't lend if more than a certain percentage of the building or of the complex is rented out rather than owner occupied. And the second is a lot of people, if they're living there as year-round residents, they want to make sure that they're not having a lot of turnover that's disruptive or just people coming in, making noise, partying. They might not want to live in that type of environment. And so that could be a restriction as well. So you need to have a good idea of what you want to do. A big other restriction we're seeing a lot has to do with short-term rentals. different cities and towns are grappling with these issues themselves, but in a lot of condo associations, the associations themselves do not like seeing a lot of short-term rentals, even in places like Portland, where you'd think that it would be more prolific. So you'll see in a lot of them, they'll say the shortest period of rental could be 30 days, or 3 months, or 1 year. Some will say that a resident has to live in a unit for 1 year before they have the right to be able to rent it out. If you're thinking that either now or sometime in the future, you might want to rent out your unit, either on a shorter term basis or a long-term basis, you're going to want to make sure that you know what your legal rights are, because the association can restrict them. Let's change focus a little bit and talk a little bit more about whether condos are a good financial decision. Generally speaking, they tend to be more affordable in terms of the sticker price, the purchase price, than a single family standalone home, generally speaking. Now, as I already mentioned, you need to take into account that monthly condo fee and how that impacts your overall cost and how much you're actually spending, and whether, apples to apples, it's a better deal for you. But let's just grant that in general they're a little bit cheaper than single family houses. How do they hold up in value? Well, it's a mixed bag. I will tell you that our experience with condos over the last 30 years is that they tend to be a little bit less of a volatile product than single family housing. What do I mean by that? Well, generally speaking, they tend to hold their value pretty well. But when you see massive upswings in real estate prices, you don't always see those same upswings reflected in the condominium stock. Why is that? Well, part of it has to do with these other factors that we're talking about, like the shared maintenance, the condo fees, the other things affecting the price. But just in the same way they don't have the same ups, they don't necessarily have the same downs. It might take a condo longer to sell in a down market, but they're still able to sell because we still have a market of people, particularly in Maine with an aging population, that are looking for less maintenance or looking to downsize as they're aging here in our state of Maine. Now, if your condo has a first floor bedroom, you're going to be even better off in terms of what your market's going to be for resale, because the population that's looking for to downsize and to have less maintenance overlaps quite significantly with Maine's aging population. And so older people do tend to like condominiums. They tend to like less maintenance on their own selves. And those are the people that are going to be attracted to a first floor bedroom. Is a condo going to grow as fast in equity position? Well, some of them do, right? So if you look at what's been happening in Portland, you look at some of the development of condos, it's because Portland on the peninsula is kind of space constrained. And so really turning existing buildings into condos or building new condos is the way to develop most rapidly or most efficiently within a little amount of space. The ones that are along Commercial Street or that have water views, those have continued to appreciate pretty quickly. If we're talking about some of the standard traditional townhouse style condos, those have tended to appreciate at a slightly slower clip than the overall real estate market. There's also a brand of what we like to sometimes call a house-a-minium. It's kind of a standalone condo. You're part of the association. The association still takes care of road maintenance and plowing and mowing, but really the house itself is a standalone unit. You might be very close to your neighbors, but you own your own house essentially. Now you don't own the land. Some people like that as a compromise. They say, I'm giving up some of my independence, I'm giving up some of the maintenance, but I'm maintaining a bit more independence. Those are a great option. But as we think about what do the condo fees cover, quite often those are going to be situations where you, as the owner of that standalone condo, are going to be more of it. Every community has different types of condos. There are weird ones in Wells, Maine, where they can turn hotel rooms into condos, but then there are certain rules for how long you can own or occupy it for a consecutive number of days. There are a lot of different nuances. If there's a specific condo or a specific association that you're looking at in your community or at some other town in Maine, give us a call. I'd love to talk about it with you. I'd love to look at it with you, and let's figure out whether it's the right decision. For Demetria's team, the Real Estate Group, this is Aaron Chadbourne.